The memory still cut him open every time the sun rose, because daylight was when the truth always felt loudest. That morning, as pale gold light spilled through the thin curtains of his small apartment, Arjun Vale stood frozen in his kitchen with a chipped mug trembling in his hand, reliving the moment his boss had stood outside his door the night before, eyes hollow, pride shattered, asking for shelter when the world had finally taken everything from her. If you're watching Ripple of Love and you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because stories like this exist for hearts that still believe people can save each other. By the time the kettle began to scream, Arjun realized he had not slept at all. The night replayed itself in fragments, sharp and uninvited, but it was morning that forced him to face what it meant. Sunlight revealed details he had missed in the dark, the dent in the wall from where he had leaned his forehead, the extra pair of shoes by the door, the weight of another person breathing in the next room. Daytime had a cruel honesty. It showed things clearly and asked what you planned to do about them. Arjun had spent years carefully shrinking his life. After his mother's long illness and death, after debt swallowed his college dreams, after moving to the city for a job that paid just enough to survive, he learned that expectations were dangerous. His apartment was clean, sparse, and quiet. His routine was sacred. Work, commute, cheap groceries, sleep. Stability, even if lonely, was safety. And then there was Mara Klein. In the office, she was precision wrapped in confidence. She walked with purpose, spoke with clarity, and carried a reputation that made people sit straighter when she entered a room. As director of operations, she had built her career by never asking for help and never showing weakness. Arjun admired her from a careful distance, not romantically, but as one admires a lighthouse from the shore, steady, unbreakable, distant. He never imagined that lighthouse could flicker. The day before had been ordinary, filled with spreadsheets and quiet nods in hallways. Mara had looked the same as always, tailored blazer, hair neatly pinned, eyes alert. No one noticed the tremor beneath her composure. No one knew she had been served eviction papers that afternoon, or that her bank accounts were frozen due to a legal battle with a former partner who had siphoned everything. No one knew she had spent hours in her car after work, staring at the steering wheel as the city lights blurred through tears she refused to shed. By daylight, the truth became harder to deny. Arjun sat at his small dining table, watching dust dance in the sun, thinking about the woman sleeping on his couch. The midnight knock had not been dramatic in sound, but in meaning. He remembered opening the door to find Mara standing there without her armor, no makeup, hair loose, eyes red from crying she hadn't finished. She hadn't demanded anything. She hadn't explained. She had simply stood there, dignity barely intact, asking if she could stay because she had nowhere else to go. Now, in the soft cruelty of morning, he wondered what it meant that she had come to him. The living room smelled faintly of the coffee he'd brewed and the lavender detergent she must have used at some point in her life. When she emerged from the couch area, wrapped in a borrowed sweater that swallowed her authority whole, Arjun felt something unfamiliar twist in his chest. She looked smaller in daylight, more human. There were faint lines around her eyes that spoke of years spent holding everything together alone. They moved around each other quietly, like strangers sharing a fragile truce. The city outside buzzed with life, buses groaning, birds calling, a neighbor's radio humming, but inside, time slowed. Arjun watched her cup the mug with both hands, as if warmth was something she needed to relearn how to accept. As the day unfolded, fragments of Mara's life spilled into the light without the need for confrontation. She sat by the window for long stretches, staring at the street below, shoulders tight. Her phone buzzed constantly, messages she refused to open. In the afternoon, sunlight caught the scar along her wrist, a thin pale line that told a story of survival she had never shared. Arjun, cleaning the kitchen to calm his nerves, realized how easy it had been to see her as untouchable, and how wrong that had been. He carried his own wounds quietly. Years of being overlooked, of being reliable but invisible, had taught him to expect nothing. Yet here he was, the person someone powerful had turned to in her lowest moment. It scared him more than he wanted to admit. Responsibility pressed heavy on his chest, not because he resented it, but because he cared. Outside, clouds rolled in, muting the light and shifting the mood. The afternoon turned introspective, heavy with unsaid things. Arjun thought about how life tested people differently. Some were broken loudly, others slowly. He had broken in silence. Mara, he realized, had been breaking behind glass walls for years. As evening approached, sunlight softened again, washing the room in amber. Mara finally spoke, not in words, but in action. She stood and began to help him cook dinner, her movements hesitant, as if unsure whether she was allowed to take up space. The simple act of sharing a task eased something between them. It was not romance, not yet, but recognition. Two people standing in the aftermath of lives that had demanded too much. Arjun felt himself unravel in small ways that surprised him. He confessed to the walls of his own mind how tired he was of being strong by default. How lonely it felt to be dependable and forgotten. Watching Mara chop vegetables with the focus of someone clinging to normalcy, he understood that strength was not the absence of need, it was the courage to show it. Night crept in again, but this time it did not arrive with panic. Lamps cast warm circles of light. The apartment felt fuller, not crowded, but alive. When Mara finally allowed herself to sit back, exhaustion etched into her face, Arjun sensed the shift. Something had cracked open, not just in her, but in him too. Near the end of the night, as rain tapped softly against the windows, Mara placed her keys on the table, the sound small but symbolic. She wasn't just staying the night anymore. She was trusting him with her broken pieces. If this story has touched your heart so far, please support it. Your love keeps stories like this alive and reaching those who need them most. Before the final moments unfold, take a second to comment below and share what this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you know. The next morning arrived brighter than the last, sunlight pushing through clouds like a promise. Arjun woke early, heart steady in a way it hadn't been in years. In the kitchen, he watched Mara asleep on the couch, her face finally relaxed. For the first time, she looked unburdened, if only temporarily. He realized that sometimes people enter your life not to stay forever, but to change the way you see yourself. As she stirred awake, the room felt different. Not because her problems were solved, they weren't, but because neither of them was alone anymore. The world outside remained uncertain, cruel in its unpredictability, but inside that small apartment, something solid had formed. Mutual respect. Unexpected kindness. A second chance neither of them had asked for but both desperately needed. Arjun understood then that compassion didn't always roar. Sometimes it whispered at midnight and waited patiently for daylight to reveal its meaning. And as the sun climbed higher, bathing everything in honest light, he felt a quiet certainty settle in his chest. That night had not been the end of either of them. It had been the beginning of learning that even the strongest people need a door open for them, and that offering shelter can heal both the guest and the one who says yes.